The symbolism of Jesus going into Jerusalem on the white horse is a symbolic representation of the Christ spirit that conquers within our flesh. It says, Christ in you that dwell in you is your hope and glory. And the Christ within you is in a body. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the mind is drawn by chariots, and that chariot is the senses of the human body, and then the mind is under control of the soul. So Christ being a representation of our higher soul nature, the consciousness that the Christ being bestows upon each individual is symbolic of us riding on that horse because our body is the horse and the Christ within is the Spirit of God that's within each person's heart that once becoming cognizant of this within ourselves will allow us to ride into Jerusalem on the horse. Now, in other stories, this horse appears Pegasus, the white horse. You have the hippocampus in your brain, hip coming from horse. They have the hips, and then also Sagittarius, the horseman ruling the hips. Walking is yeah, Jesus is separate from the donkey or the horse, well, the white donkey, but still it's the man horse. And it's man conquering his lower nature of the instinctual modes of being incarnated in a physical, intellectual animal and becoming the master and ruler over the body so that the body becomes a faithful servant. Just like in Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson by George Jurjeff, he explains from that point of view that there's the intellectual center, the emotional center, and then the instinctual center, and that center must be under control of the consciousness. So you must ride onto the white horse, on the noble steed, and that horse also um, representing the stable when Christ was born in between the animals of the stable. That's a representation of the Christ spirit being born within uh, its opposite mode. It's being born in a physical carnal nature of human form, and that's why he's born in between the goat, Capricorn, and Sagittarius in the stable, and also in our hearts when the Christ comes and our heart rules over, or our higher spirit rules over our lower passion. So we have the heart is duality as well. It has a negative animal nature, passion, lust, fear, and then the higher nature is compassion, forgiveness, all the things that Christ taught in the Bible or Krishna. Um, and when we acquire the faculty where we are cognizant of the Lord that dwelleth within, the Christ within, the Lord that dwell in a temple not built by hammer or sword, then we are able to ride our donkey, be in full control over the physical nature of the body, not by extinguishing it or making it suppressing it or using it in abnormal manner, but in a balanced way between spirit and matter, and allowing it to be a faithful servant, like what is represented in the Tell of Beelzebub by Jurjeff, the fictional story that represents esoteric truths. Is represented in there that the carnal mind has to be a servant, and that's what the his son represents the emotions, Beelzebub represents the intellect, and then the faithful servant uh, is the physical body. So in the Bhagavad Gita as well, we have to be the master of our chariot, the five senses, and treat our physical nature like it's four or five horses, basically. You have the five senses, the passions, the attractions for the physical nature to be absorbed in, the individualized ego center and disconnect from the whole, the super soul mind. And in that sense, the horses become wild and overstrong. It could lead you off the path or into a river or some type of dangerous feat. So to guide your mind and your body correctly with the soul, and then Krishna or God or Allah or Jesus being the supreme intelligence that rules over all things and is the light of our life. Because without that, then we would typically not even be able to see, whether physical or internal. So once we conquer our senses, and that's what Jesus represents when he's on the white horse, or why the hero is always on a horse, just like Link from the Legend of Zelda. Epona being the horse goddess, also representing the physical nature, and Link being the spiritual nature, and he conquers the Epona, and it is his noble steed to conquer the evil Ganondorf. So as you can see, this module is used pretty prolifically. We have the horse in our brain, the hippocampus, shaped like a seahorse. Horse Pegasus is a hero horse, the hero's horse. So it's just important to understand that these symbols can be kind of picked apart quite a bit, and you can feel it. Who feels it knows it, and it's better than just intellectualizing it and understanding that this applies to yourself. This is not just a historical event or just a simple myth or metaphor. This is spiritual language being conveyed through the words of men, which is actually the language of angels, because most of these ancient texts come from the ancient languages, as well as English even being a angelic language. So how to conquer your senses by riding and ride that horse, becoming conscious in your everyday actions. So you be conscious of your addictions, conscious of your actions, conscious of your behavior, and making this awareness expand more and more and more until finally you understand and uncover God's laws and the laws of yourself and the universe and whatnot. And then you begin to take compassion to others, compassion to yourself, to not let your appetites rule over reason. It's not that, oh, you're never going to eat again, or you're never going to have sex again, or you're never going to taste the physical world, but it just means that now you are in control of the horse. The horse is there to help you, serve you in your journey to conquer darkness within or without. So essentially, just important to understand this is how we're just going to pick apart metaphors from the Bible, from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Quran, from the Upanishads, various texts, even the Book of Mormon. You might go into various texts and just find particular metaphors, leave any recommendation of a chapter or an allegorical tale in the comments, and I might also do a video on it as well. But essentially, these symbols are cryptographs, as said by Albert Boyd Kuhn. The cryptographs are images conveyed in physical language and story format. And you get a picture, an image, and an essence of the scene, of the drama of the setting of the beautiful storybook, will enliven the meaning, and the meanings can fade through feeling, not through intellect. It's through intuition and feeling, and more of an inner knowing, and it helps guide you through to your phases of spiritual development. As the physical realm, you're just children of the universe. When you're in the angelic realm, you're teenagers of the universe. When you're in the higher demigod realms, you're more mature. And the goal is to get back to unity, the highest conscious dimension with the Lord, and be one with the Lord with separateness and individuality still intact. So in order to do that, we need to conquer this physical body. We only have one opportunity to do that. And with this opportunity, we're going to utilize the spiritual forces, the consciousness that Christ bestows upon all of us to understand right from wrong, to understand where we're going, to understand, always have our compass pointed north, pointed where we need to go, back to cause, and also bringing cause down to the physical realm so that the physical realm can one day rise and meet up back with the spiritual nature. So the spiritual and physical will merge, and what was of earth and what was heaven will merge, essentially. And that's what we need to do within ourselves. So our self is an ecosystem. There's the physical natural ecosystem, there's the spiritual ecosystem, and we just have to tap into our each individual ecosystem within ourselves, within the world, within the microcosm and macrocosm. Once we understand the cycles of nature and how it works, how the soul is crystallized into matter to take form, how it utilizes the forces and conquers it, allows it to ride upon the horse. The physical body is the noble steed. And yes, when you die, you will still have a physical body, but it won't be physical in this sense. It'll be protoplasmic and it will be astral. And you will have a noble steed there as well, with senses as well. But that horse will gain wings and become Pegasus.